morning. I gotta remember when I'm saying good morning and stuff, I'm talking to people. I know that's obviously I'm talking to you. Um, it's been a long couple of years, huh? Hi, Kate. Your dog. It's a big bad world out there, huh? I know I'm like finding out late, but I'm in life. I'm having the most surreal experience. That I'm coming for a hangout. Coming to hang out with y'all. I cannot believe I don't just. There's nothing to complain. Like, why do people go on with this kind of life? I don't know. I don't. All right. Like, I'm not stupid, but I know what it's like to feel very at peace, and it makes me really sad to know that most of the world really. Hi, Sherry. That most of the world really does just go on this miserable and just keep. I'm really struggling with adapting to this. If you can't tell, I've been on this for like the past almost year. I'm having a pretty hard time with it. I'm always restless. I'm sorry to hear that. What are you restless about? There are cruel people in this world. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting over that part. Like, I've come to terms with ironically, I've come to terms with okay, there's cruel people out there. I guess I did it backwards, but that's like the easy part for me. I know what it's like to have a lot of bitterness in my heart and be really angry. So I could let that go. I'm like, okay. It's actually the people that aren't bitter and angry that also don't take care of one another that I can't figure out. That I have a really hard time processing, where they're not afraid, or at least they don't appear to be that afraid. And they still choose to like either manipulate one another and call that a relationship or just cut each other out. And I get that for some people that's how they sustain their life. I think what I'm trying to do is figure out, God, I don't want to sit here and say which I'm going to be, right? But that feels like those are my choices. I feel like my choices are to manipulate to have relationships or just don't have relationships because I thought people had closer relationships. Then I learned about mental illness. I got more educated on manipulation and things like that and what people do. And I find out, certain things that I was doing didn't even mean to do. And I'm really working on that. And it's like most of us do not have healthy relationships, like at all. And we don't have nearly as healthy relationships as we think we have sometimes. And then we kind of just go along with that. I know I'm thinking too much about it. Hi, Jess and Jennifer. Hope you're well. Thank you, Sherry. I'm doing good. How are you? I just came on to hang out, vent, de-stress, and this one's not content. This is just, truthfully, I'm lonely. So, it's a battle to get people to recognize and accept their flaws so they can do better if they believe it is working for the... That's essentially what a lot of you did for me. Part of why I didn't shut the camera off. is facing my downfalls. I knew I needed to do it. I didn't know how, and I also didn't want to. So I kind of put myself in a position where I would have to. And it worked. It's a lot of fear, a lot of stress. Almost went nuts, but it worked. And I'm happier now, so. Them in the present, they feel no need to change. Yeah. Like, right now, I know there are things in my life. I'm getting really healthy, by the way. I'm getting a lot healthier. I'm getting a lot better. In ways that I never even have been. And in ways that I didn't even know I was unhealthy. Hi, Ashley. And I know that I have to change certain ways that I am and certain ways that I'm not. And it's really scary, but I am starting to face it and move into that. And I know deep in my heart, as long as I continue to make choices in the direction of challenging myself, that I will continue to face the challenges I do have. And then whatever challenges that I don't want to face, I'm making sure to kind of sabotage myself into a position where I have to face it. It's working. But there's just certain things that are so scary I don't want to deal with. And they feel impossible to deal with. And if I tackle them too quickly, I fail. Very quickly, I fail. And then it's just one more attack on the confidence. And I have to be building my confidence. So I'm doing my best to take what I have to face, that I'm not ready to face, that I know I'll fail at, and put it a little further off, while at the same time making sure to face the things that I can. Melly, welcome on. Welcome on. I don't like myself right now. I like who I am, but not where I am. And especially with COVID now, it's like people barely cared about each other before, and now we care about each other even less. And now that I have finally learned that it's okay for me to care about myself, and that I should, to a degree, expect others to care about me the way I care about you, people have kind of started treating me differently, and in not such a good way. Because before, I was kind of willing to bend over and do whatever I was told, and I know it might not have seemed that way, but it was. And now I know that I'm me, and it's my life. And, yeah, literally, it pretty much seems like almost nobody cares now because of that. Because now I know my worth, and they disagree with me about my worth. And before, I didn't have the confidence, and so it appeased their egos. But now that I know who I am a lot more, I'm a lot more confident. And that ends up actually cutting off my resources because people want to help me less because a plethora of reasons. And that was pretty much how it was a couple of years ago. And I knew that I got that part right, but I couldn't really withstand the storm that I took on at that time. Whereas now I'm making sure that I just pace myself and also try to maintain my relationships and rebuild them. I'm learning to pace myself with that too. I have a lot of stuff that I'm working through with people, like on my own side, where perceptions had been built for me about how certain people were, and those were false. And I'm still working on getting that out of my head, really, and remembering who people really are, the people that I used to know, that they're essentially harmless. And I was convinced they were the boogeyman, and they're not the boogeyman. So I'm working through. Your dog says it took me too long to see how hard I was trying to satisfy other people's good image of me. Well, I mean all the best, it was all very inauthentic. Yeah, I could relate to that 100%. I could definitely relate to that. I did that. Yo, man, I'm in the same boat. Ownership and identity. And then I want to act all, you know, God, I had a huge ego. I'm ashamed of that ego now. I see where I've gone wrong with people. I'm sitting here disgusted with myself. And people will tell you, they'll be like, oh, well, just change, just do different. But, and I'll say that to some people too sometimes. But the reality is, if somebody, including me, doesn't change overnight about that thing when you point it out to them, it's usually because they don't see the severity of the repercussions of what it does. And maybe you do. I'm I'm not numb, but I'm disregarding to whatever the repercussions or the issues might be that come with certain behaviors that I have that I'm really working on. It's like by the time I got better, I don't remember how much what had been done to me hurt, and then I end up repeating that habit, and I have to keep working on that, and I am. So, and I'm not referring to anything, vastly inappropriate, just basic arguments and where I'm going wrong because I'm like, man, I go too far. Like, and I don't mean that I say something that's too much. Well, sometimes, but it's just common sense things sometimes. And I never thought I'd be that guy that messes it up that bad, so easy. And I was sitting here, I'm super tired, I'm scared, kind of a little depressed, and seeing how many mistakes I'm making. And they're mistakes that I have never made in my life. I've woke up to parts of life that I never knew about. And now I've stopped making those huge mistakes, but now I'm making all the basic mistakes that pretty much everybody else makes. And you know what? I think that's a good thing. It's progress because it's lesser mistakes. But Angel Jody, welcome on. Muhammad, welcome on. There's always this viewpoint of black and white, right? Like, what's the right thing? Thank you for adding me on Snapchat. Like, what's the right thing? What's the wrong thing? And while on some level I do think it's that simple, I really do. Like, just my core belief is that whole yin yang thing, definitely a thing. And but there at the same time there's so many complexities, and it can be hard not to get lost in them. And it's about having a good balance of how much am I delving into the issue to learn about it, and how many steps am I taking to solve the issue, which are two totally different parts of the process, right? There's analysis, and then there's evaluation. And evaluation is at the end of it. That's not even where you solve the problem. But I'm also partially letting you know that I've been figuring out how to work through the issues a lot better when I wasn't before. Maggie, welcome on. So, I'm learning to gravitate towards healthier people. It's another big one. Keeping my focus on people that actually have their head on their shoulders, let alone whether or not it's on straight. Learning to spend less time around people who consider themselves the center of attention, no matter how it goes. Now, me personally, I am not that way as a person, but with the amount of attention I was getting on my platform, it was too much in regards to where my personality was at the time. So I was not big enough in real life, in my mind, to be able to ascertain the amount of social attention that I was getting. It was too much for me at that point. And so, that's when the paranoia set in. That's when I really started to think I was the center of the universe. And thankfully, I was able to downsize that. And City Flyer, welcome on. I was able to downsize that piece of it and really start to articulate my environment and recognize, like, hey, I'm a regular guy. And no matter how far my platform goes or doesn't go, I'm in real life. And on top of that, whatever choices I make and whatever I talk about online is going to affect me in real life. And if I say something on camera, I shut off the camera. If I get paranoid in real life, and I mean paranoid, not situations that have happened or it's PTSD, social anxiety, but I mean, if I shut the camera off and I'm worried about somebody coming to the door, that I know that there's something that I did online that I shouldn't have done, or something I said online that I know I shouldn't have said. Now, me personally, I am a bit of a snowflake, gonna have to tell you. I have a big heart and I'm pretty sensitive. At the same time, I do have a thick skin. I've had to learn how to grow it. The sensitive side of me makes it very hard to deal with the harder stuff. And so sometimes that'll come out. When the tougher type of people come around, at that point I kind of have to close up a little bit. And I have to get tough. That's not my personal preference. I've also learned that the soft side isn't my personal preference. I like something right in the middle. Something warm. Not hot, not cold, but warm. Then comes in the phrase for me personally, harden not your hearts. And I have to work on that one. I have to work on softening my heart, but not letting it be mush. Hi, CJ. From the wise words of a man that I spoke with just yesterday, he said, when water is dripping on a rock, over time it will wear down the rock. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be the rock and let the water terraform at the same time, maintain my own solidity. I won't get too boring on you or too philosophical, but when I close up, that's how I get. I try not to get mean. I'd rather be philosophical than get rude. That's me. But then I have people that are rude like that they'll demand my attention. But whether it's on the soft side or the hard side, I've learned to kind of curb and thwart any negative attention-seeking behavior and recognize that if I acknowledge that, then I'm inviting it. And so I have to keep myself focused. Welcome on, Andy. So, a couple of years ago, I took this on and I said yes to it. And I'm keeping that commitment. It has shaped and formed me in ways that I didn't even want. I definitely wanted it way more than I thought I did. That's part of why I stuck with it. Tenacious, welcome on. And it has made me into a much better person than I ever could have imagined. So it's brought on multiple times more blessings than curses. And it's kept my life in a good and positive place. And focusing on that now is stepping back into real life and trying to figure out how to live it. I'll tell you why I'm really live with you right now. And it's the same reason that I was live with you a million times when things weren't good. And I really didn't want to admit it to myself. That loneliness, that fear, it drives me to say, I have to get on here and I have to work. And I know this is technically not work. But in a time when I know that I am totally spent of energy and I don't have anything to give you, but at the same time, I know that I have to keep putting out and there must be something I can do. It's about the best that I can do right now. And so that's what I do. And doing our best, that includes you, doing your best and me doing my best is always better than doing nothing. Unless doing nothing is doing something during a time when you need emotional healing. And right now, I know that I'm in a place where if I just sit by myself, hi April Dawn, I know myself and I know my coping skills and what works. And I know that if I just sit by myself, that I'm going to ruminate and focus on the more negative sides of it. Whereas if I'm live streaming, it's actually more positive, and I don't just sit alone. It's also part of why I've made Facebook and Instagram and most of my platforms personal and kept them personal, because I know that my life isn't yet at a point where I can hop on here and do it totally professionally. I'm going to have times like this where I need to utilize my own platform like a coping mechanism. I'm going to have to utilize and hang out with you guys just to be able to feel good and keep myself moving into the next day. So I bought us this night in the hotel, which I'm excited for. Thank you for the Christmas present, for the person who gave me the Christmas present. But it is I'm in a really humbled spot and I feel emasculated. I'm very embarrassed and I'm going through a lot emotionally because I see that now at 26, I tried really, really hard and I failed over and over and I haven't given up here. But I can definitely see how I had given up too early in certain parts of my real life. And I tried to compensate for that in workaholism through the platform. And thankfully it didn't work. It almost did, but thank God it didn't because I was losing me. What happened to the job where you'd be able to be around people? Oh, I don't even know what I'm April or Alyssa. I am right here right now. All right, so this is the part where the vultures are coming around, and I don't do vultures. So I'm not a dying carcass. I'm doing okay. I do have feelings. Anybody that thinks that I shouldn't have feelings is absolutely insane. I've met a couple of those people. People who think that I'm not going to share who I am emotionally on screen, transparently. That's insane because that's who I am. And that's what I do. And that's it. Hi, Patty. The more you look for something negative, the more you're going to find it. And when those vultures come around, just got to get rid of them. That's it. Recognize also, guys, that whatever energy, if you've ever heard like the law of attraction, if they say whatever you put out there is what you get back. I hate to say it, but that's not always how it is. That'd be a very convenient circumstance, either for self-perpetuated misery or building on our own pride. But that's not always how it is. There's going to be situations where we're going to end up with people in our environment that are real. Yeah, we are. Now all we gotta do is make sure to focus on them. And remind ourselves about who cares. And understand that the way people care is going to be in the way that they can care, the way that they know how. So I care. I know you care. And that's good. It's really good. Let's stay focused together and continue power through it all. I've learned that in this life, there are going to be things that are real. We only grow if we keep learning. Thank you, Eat Your Dog. 100%. There are going to be things in this world that are real. There are going to be things that look real. And then there's going to be things that aren't real. Oh, audio is muffled. Thank you, Eat Your Dog. Barbie, welcome on. We're not always going to know the difference between what is real, what looks real, and what's not real. And sometimes when things are really hard, what looks real can be enough to get us through the day and get us what we need. And I am learning that lesson so hard, and I'm learning it. That sometimes it's okay that things just look real. Because you know what? Looking real is real. And I have no place to judge on that. I threw away a part of who I am, and that is the part where I look real. And what I mean by that is I am real, but I was willing to retract the part where I look real and then wonder why you don't think I'm real. That's why. So I'm real. I also need a haircut. That's a thing. Very real. And you are too. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because it can become very easy to get depressed, get down on ourselves, and quit. We can quit pretty easy when things aren't going our way. Also recognize that sometimes, if that's what you need to get by, if getting your way is what you need just to get by, then get your way. That's coming from me. I'm saying, whatever you have to do, as long as you respect your fellow man or woman or however we identify, as long as we respect one another, it's okay to get what you want. It's good to get what you want. How we get it makes a big difference about who we are on the other side of it. And I've been given a lot of time by a lot of good people to work through my issues. And I have found out that a lot of the mistakes I've made, for any non-Americans, you may not agree that it's a big deal. But to me and to my fellow Americans, the mistakes that I made are a pretty big deal. And that's our culture. You know, we do have a very hypertensive culture, and maybe being a little more laid back could help us out. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm doing my best to try and make sure that I take ownership of my decisions, and at the same time, remember that there's more than one way to get it done. And that's the beauty of working together and collaborating with other people, is to know that we all do it different. And that can be a good thing. Because when we only choose to do it our own way and it doesn't work out, which I'm a product of very much, when it doesn't work out, we might end up talking to somebody that can make it work out in ways that we never could. And that's the story of my life so far, is my way did not work. And it took 1,000 different people with 1,000 different versions and variations of their way to help to come together to help teach me how to live my life. And that's the story about the past 5 years of my life. And there are individuals on the other side of the screen who have, in a lot of ways, saved my life, both on accident and on purpose. And it's funny how it all went down, because God will protect us no matter what. And even when people got mad at me, they're putting their head on the pillow at night and praying, right? And they're doing their own thing, and they have their own good intentions. And even in the times when people didn't have good intentions for me, I know that deep down they cared, and that you care. And that's why it worked, right? I have learned something that a very beautiful woman, a very amazing person told me once. Many, many times she told me, she says, well, it's the intentions, right? What is someone's intentions? And as long as someone has good intentions, whether it's us or God or whatever powers that be, it always works out. It just does. And mistakes will be made. And that's human. Forgiving ourselves and also moving on to do better, those go together. But it begins with acknowledgement and ownership, and that is the hardest pill to swallow. It always is. And I think even in my life now, I predict it's going to take me another 4 years to fully come to terms with choices that I've made in the past 5 years. I think there's a lot of decisions that I've made that I didn't fully understand, because I stepped out into a whole new part of life that I had never had before. And I had to make choices that were definitely failure, and were definitely disrespectful, but I chose to take the leap. So for anybody willing to still treat me as a human being after some of the ridiculous choices I've made, it means a lot, because I'm getting my head on straight and figuring out who I am. Ooh. And that was the timer to check out of the hotel, but I was able to get another night, and I paid for it tonight. And that is my New Year's present to my beautiful wife. God. There's no such thing as a perfect marriage, and there's no such thing as a perfect life. So, love what you have, because we deserve it. And, oh my God, is it going to suck? I feel that. It's good anyway. We're breathing. We're alive. Like, what else is there to complain about at this point? Like, yeah. I've learned a lot about myself. Thanks for teaching me. All right. Amazing, says Katie. Thank you. Hi, Rick. Don't do that. Darby, welcome on. Blessings. Thank you. Love all that you do. Thank you, Lise. Ugh. Kels, welcome on. It's sublime, not just sleek, says Tanisha. Thank you. And Vanessa. Vanessa wants to go for beers. I'll tell you what. My wife turns 21 in March. We'll go for beers. What was it? Before I reference something and try to sound cool, I'm going to go ahead and shut down. I've had a great time here. Thank you for stopping in. And I will see you all next time. And no, it's not a wig, but haircut soon. It's starting to do a flip, and I do like that flip, so I might just keep. I'm gonna be keeping that. I did that in high school, and I got made fun of so hard for it, and I didn't even care. I loved it, so I'm gonna let my hair flip grow back in. Thank you.